All I had to, they had the cones out when I come through this morning.
Oh, wow. Bypass that, good.
Okay, we're on.
We're ready? Well, we will call this July 16th, 2025 O&P committee meeting to order then. Nobody's here from the public, so guess we don't have any public comments today. We'll move on to item C, presentation and discussion items. Mr. Chris Eliezer.
All right. I just passed this out this morning because I just finished it yesterday after, I think it was yesterday afternoon, of putting the updated sheet together for the fiscal year 2026 project list. And, as before we, we'll continue updating this. And this was, I think everybody here has heard about this, but this started off as an internal document. I can't even remember if Kyle was here yet or if it was still when our previous operations director, Steve Hunt, was here. But it was a way just for us to track the status of any project at any time and to keep from having anything kind of slip through the cracks, because we have so much going on. It's easy to lose, lose something in the shuffle.
Right.
So we put this together. The first sheet, front and back, it has blue and white stripes, and what that is those are projects and major items that we have to complete in this fiscal year, because they're only budgeted for this annual budget, not for rollover continuance into the following year. The second sheet, the green and white striped sheet, are projects that are either multi-year projects or projects that are going to be paid for with restricted funds, and those could be completed within a budget cycle or a fiscal year. So what I have done this year to kind of make it a little easier on myself and maybe Kyle and possibly you guys too, is to track some of these under broader headings. So for instance, on the blue and white sheet, you'll see item on row 14, you'll see projects 2026-02. And then underneath that, you'll see indented within there a handful of items. Well, all of those items that are indented roll up into that broader heading on item 14. So all those are going to be completed as one project, but this allows us to track those sub-items as they're performed, and those will be performed much later in the year because, with these items being budgeted, they're going to be put out through a request for bid pretty soon, and the goal with these is just to have them completed by the end of the fiscal year. Once we're able to get that out, you'll see the same format on the green and white sheet, the restricted fund projects. We have really 3 of those that we're tracking right now. The Sewer South Phase 2, even though the construction's been completed on that now for a number of months, there's still a few items on the engineering side as of right now that still need to be completed. One of which is to get all of the GIS information from the engineer, and we've been waiting on that for several months, and we're hoping to get that soon. I just sent them an
Why would
email.
that be an issue, Chris? I mean, it looks to me like that would be, it should be on the disk.
Well, they have to take, so what I think they're having to do is they're having to take the information and put it into the system.
Okay, so they're
So they're having to
trying
create the
transfer it.
files
Okay,
to our
okay.
standard. And that's something that really is kind of beyond my
I got you.
level
Okay.
of understanding. But I know there's a bunch of different coordinate systems, and we have specific, specifications that we require it to comply with, so that it'll integrate seamlessly with our existing system. So that's what they're having to put these standards together by. So once we get that, and I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, but I sent them an email Monday to ask them for an update and a deadline when they're going to get that to us, because we're waiting on that, and that would be of benefit to us whenever we get requests for down that way for you know, is sewer available to us. And, you know, the project engineer on that too also is for, you know, a year and a half or longer has been battling some pretty serious health issues as well. So, you know, there's a kind of a team, you know, so he's having to kind of farm out a little bit of his work to an associate. So, you know, I don't want to press him too hard but, you know, we do need to get that.
Yeah.
And then also too, there's a couple of amendments to that contract that we had with Davis and Floyd, the engineers, because we have to do a creek bank stabilization down that way for pipeline and allow us the ability to traverse across a creek that's down that way behind the Broomway Lane pump station. So they're having to design that because it's in the Corps of Engineers. It's within their purview, I believe, down that way. It's not on their property entirely. So that's got to be designed and constructed to meet their requirements. And then we need to have a potable water line run from that, you know, the end portion of Highway 11 where it kind of terminates at the, you know, on the, will that be the eastern or southeastern side of exit 1, and run it down to our pump station so that we'll have a water supply down that way for cleaning the wet wells and also.
How big a line do you think it's gonna take to do that, Chris?
They estimate that we're gonna need a 2-inch line, but maybe a 1-inch meter, I
Okay.
believe is what they're looking at. But
Okay.
that's part of the engineering
I got you.
that they're having to do. So that's, you know, they're in the process now of working with that. We're, you know, part of a little bit of the hang up with that part of it is trying to coordinate that with SCPRT and also possibly SCDOT because of the renovation project, the rebuild project they have of the Welcome Center. So we're working with them to make sure that we're
Are
not.
you gonna have to,
away.
on your creek stabilization, what kind of a, are you getting any funding for that, or how are you?
The county, so, you
County's
know,
gonna try to help you?
well, with this whole thing, and you know, as of right now, and we have to keep all of our funds separate. So we have,
Correct.
if you look at our funds, we have 5 funds.
When you do
Two-
merge this thing, or we merge everything, can they then cross, can we cross on the end at that point in time?
Yes, that's
So we can merge
that's the hope, and this is something, you know, that is frustrating, I know, to Lynn because of the accounting aspect of it, to make sure that we pay out of the proper account, because the cities cannot subsidize any of the operation
Right.
down in the southern part of the county, nor can that system subsidize any of the operation here, except for where it crosses over at the treatment plant. Well, it's difficult to come up with the cost of how the treatment plant's impacted. So there's not much really in a way of a transfer at all from them, from there to here for the plant, other than paying for the personnel to operate the facility. So it is a true nightmare
Yeah.
trying to
Can we imagine?
manage these two systems from a
Yeah.
financial standpoint. But to answer your question, Oconee County's committed to doing this. We have to do both of these down that way.
Are
They're
you trying to
aware
do them
of it.
simultaneously, or gonna do them separate?
We'll probably put them out as one project.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
I think that's the discussion we're having with the engineer. And it may be, you know, it could possibly be that we could do, you know, if it's a matter of trenching in a line, that, you know, it's not beyond my thought that we could look at doing that part of it for the water line, but creek bank stabilization is gonna be a pretty big endeavor.
Now, the water line is interesting to me. So that automatically is saying to me, and I'm assuming there's not enough flow from the Welcome Center to make the pumps run well.
No, I don't wanna say that that's the case. We're not planning as of right now to use any makeup water.
So it's not gonna be a flushing type situation?
Not necessarily, and since, you know, Kyle's been monitoring this more than I have, but I don't see, we haven't done that to this point.
Okay.
It's just mainly
Just to back up.
And this isn't typical, this isn't atypical for this station. You know, and I don't know what Seneca's policy is. on this, but we want to have water supply to every one of our pump
Sure.
stations. And we probably have it at what,
Okay.
2/3, maybe half to 2/3 of our stations. We have it just so that we are able to do
Correct.
wash downs of.
That's what I'm basically asking for, a wash down pipe situation is all I was basically
That's
asking
kind of
about.
standard for us too, we do the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But in the event that we ever did have, introduce bleach or some type of chemical there, that, we would have it available.
Okay, makes sense.
So that's kind of the status of where we are with that. The other two projects that you see on there, they're being funded by that SCIP grant. And that one of those is for the dewatering, the dewatering equipment replacement here, and the other one is the rehab of the collection system. That is a consent order item that we're performing there. So unless there's any other questions about any of that, I'll let you guys take a look at it, and then we'll, begin tracking more of it as we move forward in this year. And you'll see a lot, when you look at it, there's gonna be a lot of TBDs for dates
Right.
and costs, because we have to, a lot of the stuff we have to get quotes for or get bids for, and we need to put together timeframes. We've got one, project out there that's, we're looking at now, which is that row 4 on the first sheet, the CMMS and financial software system upgrade. We have one out there for that, a solicitation. So we're hoping to have information back from that for us to begin reviewing in the next few weeks to select a.
Now, is this one gonna have our Speech Creek on there, or any of that on here?
Speeds Creek, the force main
Yes,
is on.
I saw
And
it
you'll
somewhere.
hear me ask about it time to time.
Yeah.
I know we've got a problem there, and I'm just,
It's on item G on.
Yeah,
On the
it's-
green sheet.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
it's
just
on the
working
green
on that
page.
one, and we have.
Last one on the page.
Yeah, we have money budgeted for that, for the design and easement, matters only right now, no money for the construction. But before we look to do that, I've got, that's gonna require a separate solicitation that we wanna put out there to have a indefinite delivery contract for an engineering firm, to be able to use them for multiple projects for the foreseeable future with a defined.
don't you see
term
that
limit.
as being one of your bigger deals right there? That's gonna be one of your bigger projects to help you with all your
Well,
transfer?
I would say that's a big deal from the consent order standpoint and for the maintenance standpoint, because that's the one that we, was it
Oh,
the Friday of Labor
That's
Day
what
or
I'm worried
Memorial
about
Day
right there. It's a
weekend.
nightmare.
I think it was
I guarantee
Scott
it's
called
gonna
me
cost
about a leak we had in that day, and, we have 2 to 3 breaks out there every year.
Preventative maintenance is my big deal, man. I mean, it'll cost you so much money.
Yep, well, that one really isn't a preventative maintenance.
No,
one.
I
It's
mean,
just
getting the project in there to
Yeah.
get it done, because we know we're spending a lot of money out there.
Yep, it
I mean,
is.
And then the guys just run them up down the road to something they need to be doing somewhere else. I mean, that's just a nightmare.
Staying out all night.
There you go. That's
Yep.
it. That's what I'm talking about.
So
These
it's,
guys were running to death on something we should have already been in the ground.
yeah, so that's, that we definitely want to have that one done, but we're currently replacing that one stick of pipe at a time.
That's a true statement.
And we've already,
Hey, listen, yeah, you're doing Delconi Way then. That's all I do.
well, we've replaced that. There's been sticks of pipe that we replaced within the last 10 years that we're out there having to replace
The
again.
holes in it.
Because,
Really?
yeah, with holes. And it's because of corrosive soils. It's been identified that was the
Oh,
problem
really?
on
No
this
kidding.
duct. This is a cutaway, a sample of pipe from out that way. And it's corroding the pipe is what is happening.
How big is that line out there?
14,
Which
just
is
a-
an odd
Kind of
size.
an
I was
odd
gonna say it's an odd
So
ball.
we have to keep
That's
all
part of the pipe,
We have
right?
to keep
Part
everything
of-
14 on site.
Laramie?
You can't just order it.
That's,
Pick
that's
it up,
actual
right.
part of that.
Yeah,
pipe.
so you can see, and this sitting how it is in the ditch, so it's wearing away from the bottom, the invert of the pipe. And you would think, because at first,
Whenever I'm in Walhalla, I never do cutaways on any pipe. It's so bad. I can't see it.
well, we did this, we did this one specifically from a piece of pipe that we took, so we can have to show people, anybody that this is what, we're having out there, because it is a very unusual situation. In fact, when I spoke to engineers about it, I spoke to several engineers.
Is there any coating we can put on this stuff to keep it from the outside in?
Well, you can wrap the
Right,
pipe,
yeah, but
but you
You still
can't
gonna
do it
get
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The best option is just to replace it with PVC.
Yeah, so we're just gonna replace it with PVC
Okay.
with a standardized size, but it's gonna have to go through the permitting process because we're changing the material
Changing
and
the
the
everything.
size. So, you know, we're looking at doing the entire length of it.
Just,
So,
on item 3, there's a date typo there.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the CMMS?
No, that's the, Art Flash
Oh, the Art Flash.
Flash, yeah.
assessment. I think that's supposed to be, 4:30.
Okay.
I think
So-
the CMMS says.
That brings up a question, you gotta update
Says
your,
25, 6:30 or 25 completion.
Yeah, thank you.
is there Art Flash, is that for here?
For
your
here and our
campaign?
pump stations, we, you know, we're put in there, they're required to be done every 5 years at a minimum by OSHA.
Yeah,
By-
OSHA.
By OSHA, so we've got everything now on the same cycle. So we can do everything, you know, set every 5 years to be done that way.
Okay.
So yes, it's come up. And I think we've had a few of them that we've had
Already.
made changes.
Yeah.
But even the ones that we've had done recently, we're gonna get them on the same cycle. So if it's been one like, say, Flat Rock, that was done a couple of years ago, or year ago when it went in operation, we're gonna go ahead and update it, so we have all of them on
Okay.
the same cycle. So that's where, so that's those, but again, for the error, thanks for pointing that out. But, you know, as you find them, let me know, because like I said,
Yeah. that's no
I
big
just
deal.
began working on this Monday, because it's been busy. I'll just let you know too, I told somebody yesterday, maybe
We were talking about it.
that I've had, on Thursday and Friday of last week, you know, I was gone Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday of last week, I had 10 calls for sewer availability for projects that, I think if I remember right, it was like 500 or 600 acres, maybe more than that they were asking.
This thing is gonna, I'm telling you, we're gonna outgrow ourselves. I can see it. I've been saying that for a while.
And it was everywhere, like it involved each city.
So it's not just one area.
Yeah,
You're
each
talking all of it.
city had calls about it and the interstate, so it's
It's all over.
all
Yeah.
over.
You're just doing your job too good, Scott. You're just bringing them in.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
apparently countywide.
Yeah, so it's been a busy, you know, and usually July and December are usually
They're sort
the
of-
2 slow months.
Exactly.
It has not been a slow month
How about
this
that?
month at
That's
all.
great. That is great. From a business standpoint, it's wonderful.
Mhm.
You know, from the insurance, from the infrastructure standpoint, it's not too good.
All right, any other questions about that?
And it looks like your Seneca Creek project's coming along good.
Yeah, they're moving along pretty well on that one. In fact, they're, I think the 2 things left to do really are the creek crossing itself on Wells Highway and then the railroad board. They're waiting for the railroad to coordinate that, because I think they have to have a flagger or an
That's
inspector
right, yeah,
on site for that to be done. So they're, you know, we're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting on them. What happened that way. I spoke to the engineer about it. The substantial completion date is toward the end of October, but I think it'll, you know, it should be online before that time and well before Paul's Diner apartment project is online, which was what it was put in to support, which, you know, that as well as, you know, an additional 100,000 or so gallons outside of that
It's
project.
funny driving by that project. I mean, the buildings are going up, they've got the shaft for the elevators and all that, but the diner sign is
Sign's
still
still
up
up.
there. You know, where's the diner at here?
Yeah.
It's funny why they don't tear that down. I don't get it.
My ice machine's still there if you need ice. What is the old pipe that they've taken out of the ground, was that, or I've seen some old, appeared to be old pipe.
Yeah, I assume what that is the original
Original
force
force
main,
main, okay.
because that force main's been replaced one time
Okay.
before. So I think that's the original force main that they're removing and must be laying it in, you know, in that.
Makes sense.
They're going in the same ditch, probably keeping
That's
that,
what I think.
going the right, didn't change the right of way.
Now, the big pump station that he agreed to build in there, is that gonna be right around in that area there?
Well, he's never agreed to build the pump station. He only was replacing the force main.
Oh,
So
okay.
we'll eventually have to do that pump
I
station.
thought that, he was
Ourselves.
offering $4 million to do
That's
that.
to put in that pipe.
Oh, okay,
So
got it.
that pipe, just that pipe by itself was, $3 to $3.5 million.
Oh, okay.
So that's, that's what he's paying for. So we'll still have to do the pump station, which is, one of the items that's pretty high up our list here, just because, it's beyond its useful life currently. Plus, it's limited now. That's now gonna be the weak link in the chain for the growth over that way.
All right, is that all you got on current projects, Chris?
Yes, sir, it
Move
is.
on to item D, action items recommended to the board. If there's none, so move on to item E, executive director's discussion and compliance matters.
Okay, with that, I don't have anything myself, but I've asked Mr. Lindsay, Kyle Lindsay, to come in and speak about a couple of things. One is our NPDS permit update and where we are with that, with DES, and also a notice of violation that was issued to us back a couple of months ago regarding toxicity, correct? Kyle, is that right? So he'll bring you up to date on that.
So I'll start with the toxicity issue, which was, so we do quarterly toxicity testing. And on that specific sample, it come back that the conductivity readings was really high on those samples. Well, years ago.
Do you get a chance to go back and ask for another one? Or
No, on that one, it's a one and done.
Okay, one and done, okay.
So, years ago, before me or Chris was here, we found out that they used to do conductivity testing consistently here on our lab, plus any samples that was sent off on toxicity testing too. And because BASF's process, they were sending or have the capability of sending high conductivity. And then that is, I think it got escalated to where a diffuser actually had to be engineered and installed down at the effluent because of what they were sending to, again, I don't know the details because I wasn't here. But then BASF changed their process and it went away. Okay. Well, now they brought that process back.
Who? BASF?
BASF has brought their process back to what we found out. So immediately, once we found out from the samples that were sent off by us to our lab, and they had said that there was high conductivity readings in it, it's why the failure occurred. I got with Allison, and Allison got with Goldie, who helps with our pre-treatment program, and went straight to BASF and give them all these stipulations. So they actually revised their permit to start testing when we are on toxicity. So we'll have
You got it all
we
laid
got it all together when we're testing, they're testing, and
That way you make sure.
that
it's
way
correlated.
we can see if something happens, we can look at their sample and say, oh, we know it come from y'all. We got.
Okay.
Plus, they put a permit limit on TDS, total dissolved solids, which it's not the same as conductivity, but it rides like this if you look in that conductivity and TDS on a graph. And so we can see when TDS goes up, their conductivity is up also. We actually have purchased or will be purchasing in this fiscal year a conductivity meter, so our guys can test conductivity at any time. That way we'll be able to see what's coming into the plant.
So you said years ago BASF had that issue with conductivity, and you put a diffuser in, and then they stopped doing it. What y'all do, take the diffuser
No,
out?
it's
or-
there. It never was used because I think they stopped the process, from my understanding.
You
pretty
can't bring it back
immediately.
online?
Well, I don't know what that diffuser does
Oh,
because that
okay.
diffuser's at the end. It had to do with something as far as what's being discharged into the creek.
Okay.
It didn't do
So it
anything
did
for
nothing
the
in your system.
process in our system. Yeah, it didn't help at all. It was just for, and again, I don't understand how that could even help with
Okay,
what was
gotcha.
going on.
Nope.
The thing with the diffuser too, we just think it's probably full of silt.
Oh, by
We
now,
don't
it
even know that
Oh,
it's
just
yeah.
not even
functional. We don't know that it was just.
So what does conductivity have to do, what does it do for us here?
Okay, the higher the conductivity is actually toxic to the macroinvertebrates.
Oh, we're talking about
In the
electrolysis.
Okay.
It's an ion, it's all,
Okay,
you
it's
know,
all about electrolysis is
biology.
what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, again, and it's coming from their process.
Okay,
Okay.
good. Are they
And they know
cooperative?
it, they know it, and Allison and Simon has actually immediately changed their permit limits, so they got permit limits that they gotta maintain now,
Okay.
so it don't. So hopefully, so we've had a
Do you think
toxicity,
we're fixed now?
well, the last toxicity we just done, we were fine, no
Okay.
issues.
I'm
So,
gonna tell you something, guys, that electrolysis is a bad egg, man. I'm telling you, they'll ruin your
they
pipes
gotta
just
watch
like
it, yeah,
that.
they just gotta watch what
I
they
mean,
do.
you know, because we'll be replacing every bit of that pipe all the way down through here.
So that's basically the gist of that. Again, it wasn't anything that we done, it's what we were getting, and,
Right.
hopefully it's fixed now, or at least we got parameters and things in place.
Plan in place anyway.
That's good.
And
Yeah,
we don't suspect there's gonna be any enforcement action. I don't believe. Do you know anything more about that?
since we haven't had any issues in years concerning that, I don't think that they go put anything, because we've actually justified what happened and what.
We are compliant. That's all they're asking for you.
That's
to
all
do.
they're
You're
compliant.
Yeah, they asked us
You know?
to provide them with a written response.
Exactly,
So-
sure.
So that was what was done. So I don't think there'll be any monetary fines. I don't think so. It would be surprising.
It's not a one-off. It happens from time to time. It's just the way it is.
What was the second?
NPDES permit.
So the MPS permit is out for public notice now, and I think they have until next week, the 24th maybe, before it's ending. And we still have some comments, and Chris, I don't know, I know Sonia helped us put together that report. Has anything been submitted, or we've heard back from,
I'm
the
waiting.
lawyer?
Yeah, well, it's not even that so much. I'm just waiting to make sure that Sonia and Jeff DeBassinet
Jeff, that's right, yeah.
are on the same page. So we've had we've
Back and
had
forth on the. Yeah.
an attorney that's part of an organization that we're members of. And he doesn't work for us, but he works for this statewide water utilities organization. So he had some comments about it and questions about it. And then Jeff Bassinet, who used to work for DHEC until he retired in the permitting section, I believe that's what he did. And now he's on kind of the other side of things as a regulatory consultant. So he had some questions and comments about it as well, because he saw it just from the public notice. And so we had a call, I think it was Monday, was it last week?
Last week.
Or 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
It wasn't
yeah,
Monday,
yeah,
it was I wasn't
2
here.
weeks, yeah.
But anyways, we had a call with Sonia, Allison, Kyle, myself, and Jeff Bassinet to talk it over. So we've provided a written response. So I'm just waiting to make sure that both Sonia and Jeff Bassinet are on the same page of what that response is gonna be.
So they tried to put in there an aluminum permit or parameters for us. Well, Jeff has been awesome because he knows that stuff. And when we don't create aluminum, you know, it would take millions and millions of dollars for us to treat aluminum. So that's one of the main things that we're trying to fight, basically, for them not to put a parameter for us for aluminum.
And that would be that's a pre-treatment
That's a
matter.
That's coming from the industry.
So we can't, like Kyle said, we couldn't treat it here. We'd be, so that's, you put that on the source of the issue, put that on
Right.
them to remove it if indeed it goes that far. So that's what, one of the items that we're addressing in that response. But the new permit will also, once it's issued, we'll finally be able to make that conversion over to paracetic acid
That's right.
disinfection and eliminate, well, I shouldn't say that. We'll remove chlorine from our process, but we likely will have to maintain a small quantity here on site
As backup.
as a backup, at least for a period of
Until they
time,
feel
if not
comfortable with
indefinitely.
PA work.
Right. I know you're excited about that.
Yeah.
So everything's done, we're just waiting on that now. Everything's in
Well, that'd
place.
be good, that'll help out a lot.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much the coverage of the NPD.
And then, the miscellaneous, the only miscellaneous thing I have is I'll introduce Jake Wilson more formally. I've introduced you all to him before the meeting, a couple of you, but, formally, Jake is here. He's gonna be focusing on a lot of our, once he gets trained up to do it, he'll be handling plan reviews, he'll be possibly doing some on-site, like inspection of construction, sites, project management, GIS work, and, keeping that updated. What else? Easement, like right now he's going through easements, but Jake has an interesting background, I guess like a lot of us do. You never know where you're gonna end up. Jake actually worked for Larry Brandt, our attorney, for 10 years.
Wow.
And, he had been involved with us and helping us out from over the last, 2 or 3 years extensively on easement research. We've had a kind of a project going where we're trying to get all of our easements incorporated into our GIS mapping system so that we have them readily available in the event that we have, to go and pull these documents out, if we have somebody that's obstructed the easement or wants to see a copy of, they want to do an addition of a building or whatever the case may be, and they need to know what their limits are for what they can and can't do. So that's how Jake got involved. So he's, already familiar with regulatory matters, with the easements, working for an attorney. I think he's, going to be very detail oriented from the get-go and familiar with regulation, and also understands surveys and that type of matter. So there's no doubt in our mind, and that's talking with many people when I was kicking this idea around, bringing him on board, including with Mr. McLean here, and talking with other attorneys and other, people that work in that field, that they thought it would be a great fit. So.
So it looks like you're best of both worlds. You know the law, but you're not a lawyer, so.
Yeah.
Nobody can downgrade and tell that. Yeah.
So, I don't, at least, for the foreseeable future, he won't be in these meetings typically unless we have a specific project or something
Praise
that he
the
may
Lord for
need
you.
to update you on, but I at least wanted to introduce you
Yeah.
to him as you see him around. When you do attend some of these meetings, you'll know who he was.
Welcome to the team, Jake.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are you a paralegal?
No, my title was legal assistant, but
Oh,
it was
okay.
very simple.
Okay, very good. Okay. Very good, man. Very good.
So
You know-
Larry's making you multitask, is he? Play with that button, what Larry's doing?
So, no, he's actually pretty much retired now.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I hadn't talked with him, Larry and I stayed in touch for a pretty good bit, but I just had to talk to Larry, I've had so much going on.
Yeah, June 30th was kind of his retirement day.
I'm trying to get over there
I
before
want to tell you, he's a good man.
So,
Enjoy.
he's still in and out of the office a little bit, trying to wrap up some business matters, that kind of thing. So you
Did
might
another
catch-
lawyer take over his business?
No, he was by himself. so.
Okay.
That's all all we got on item E. We'll move on to item F, committee members discussion. David or Larry, you got anything?
No, I don't have anything.
Don't have a fudge, buddy.
Got nothing. We'll move on to upcoming meetings. I believe our next meeting is August the 20th. Y'all good with that
Mhm.
one?
August 20th is fine.
Board meeting August the 4th. That's just right around the corner. Nobody's got anything else? We hear a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I make a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
I know you've got to be somewhere, so you're ahead of schedule.
9:45, I'm good until then. Now, will Lawrence Flynn, will he be here physically at the board?